The CNA logo appears in the pilot on an office door, and for a long time, no one knew what it meant. Some people thought it was Cain and Associates, some thought it was just a company name. But after episode 6 put Cain and Abel on the barrel of Jax's revolver, and episode 8 showed us the entire origin story of how the circus was built, we now have the full picture. This is the complete Cain and Abel theory from start to finish, and how it connects to the finale. Because the Cain and Abel theory points toward a very sad ending, and the death of one of the characters. So the foundation of everything is the story of Cain and Abel from Genesis. Two brothers, sons of Adam and Eve. Abel is a shepherd, Cain is a farmer. They both make offerings to God. God accepts Abel's offering and rejects Cain's. Cain gets jealous and kills his brother in a field. God finds out and punishes Cain by condemning him to wander the earth forever. But he also puts a mark on him and says that whoever kills Cain will be punished sevenfold. Then Cain goes on to build the first city ever mentioned in the Bible so that people can live without God's direct presence. Every piece of that story maps onto TADC. Cain is the prototype and Abel is the second creation, the one the company actually wanted to keep. CNA, the corporation, favors Abel over Cain the same way God favored Abel over Cain. Cain destroys Abel out of jealousy because he cannot accept being the inferior version. And after consuming his brother, Cain builds the circus, a digital city enclosed from the outside world where people lived and managed without access to anything beyond its walls, cut off from reality the same way the city of Enoch was cut off from the garden. And there's more. The meal at the end of the pilot is arranged like the Last Supper, with Pomni seated in the center, where Jesus sits in Leonardo's painting. Jesus was never taken seriously by the people around him, and Pomni is literally dressed as a jester. In the Last Supper, one of the disciples is Judas, who betrays Jesus. And if someone in the cast ends up betraying Then a blue dot enters the frame and instantly starts producing cleaner, more advanced shapes effortlessly. The red dot watches the blue dot outperform it. Then it moves toward it and absorbs it completely. Once the blue dot is gone, the red dot begins constructing the circus alone inside the software. The opening represents both the biblical murder and the origin of the circus. Cain watching Abel receive God's favor and deciding to end him rather than live as second best. The red dot watching the blue dot create better shapes and choosing to devour it rather than accept being the lesser of the two. During Cain's breakdown in episode 8, Bubble looks him in the face and says, "You really were the lesser of the two." Nobody else in the circus could possibly know that Cain was the inferior prototype because nobody else existed when the two AIs were being developed. Bubble knows because some part of Abel lives inside him. Cain's face has two eyes, and they've always been blue and green. But during the glitch sequences, it switches to red and blue. Red for the first AI, blue for the second. The idea is that when Cain swallowed Abel, he didn't fully erase him, he fused with him. And parts of Abel have been in the system ever since. That would explain why Bubble understands things Cain just doesn't. Bubble catches every verbal prank, while Cain falls for the same tricks again and again. Bubble picks up on sarcasm, while Cain takes everything literally. In Genesis, after Cain murders Abel, God puts a mark on him and says that whoever kills Cain will suffer vengeance sevenfold. Kill Cain, and the punishment coming your way will be 7 times worse than what Cain got for killing his brother. Kinger is the one who pressed the button that deleted Cain at the end of episode 8. If the show follows the biblical thread, then Kinger just put that mark on himself. And look at Kinger. His real name in the code is partly hidden, but you can still see G, A, and N. and most people think it says Grant. The title of episode 9 is the grand finale. If Kinger's name is Grand instead of Grant, then the title takes on a much darker meaning. That title might not just mean the final episode. It could be pointing directly at Kinger, the episode where his story ends. The floor of the circus has been a black and white checkerboard since the pilot, and Kinger is literally a chess piece. He's the king. In episode 9, Kinger might end up in checkmate, or that moment could be the only way the game ends and the others finally get out. In the episode 9 trailer, we barely see Kinger at all. The trailer is heavily focused on Jax, on Pomni crying, on Gangle regretting something, on Ribbit asking about regret, but Kinger gets almost nothing. For the character who killed Cain, who created the circus in the first place, who has been the most important person in the lore since episode 8 revealed his entire backstory, getting almost no screen time in the trailer feels intentional. They're hiding what happens to him because showing it would spoil the biggest moment of the finale. And Kinger in the trailer, completely broken, realizing he's the one who built the thing that trapped his friends and locked them in. And that promise he made to Queenie that we never got to hear because the audio cuts out. All of that points to one thing. His story probably ends with him taking the fall so the others can finally leave. The voice actors cried when they read the finale script. Gooseworks even told fans, "This one's a bit heavy, be ready." So a sad ending makes sense, especially if they end up killing off the one character everyone loves. And there's a detail from the Bible that makes it worse. In Genesis, Lamech, a descendant of Cain, says, "If Cain is avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold." The punishment escalates through generations. Kinger is both the father and the executioner. What applies to the person who made Cain and then killed him might not stop at 7. And that could even tie into the 57 we keep seeing everywhere in the series. During the intermission scenes, every character gets hit by something. Cake, bowling balls, whatever. Kinger's different. He's holding the bowling ball, but instead of getting hit, he gets knocked off the board by a black rook, a chess piece. And in chess, the game only ends when the king falls. Kinger's been the last one left from the original group this whole time. He outlived Queenie, Scratch, all of them. At the start of episode 8, he makes that promise to Queenie. "Whatever happens, I'll always be," and it cuts off. If his story ends with him dying, it would be tragic, but also kind of beautiful. And there's one last piece from Genesis that fans have been pointing out since 2023. After Cain kills Abel, God eventually gives Adam and Eve a third son named Seth, who replaces Abel and continues the family line. Fans predicted early on that a Seth figure would show up in the show to take Abel's place in some form. And if the circus is still standing after Cain's deletion, even though it should have completely vanished, then something is holding it together from underneath. If Bubble is what remains of Abel, and Bubble survived Cain's death despite what Gooseworks said on Tumblr, then Bubble could be stepping into the Seth role right now. Those are just theories. We'll have to wait and see. TADC is based on a short story from 1967 called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and Gooseworks confirmed it herself. But the connections between the two go way deeper than just the AI being inspired by AM. The characters line up with each other, the scenes reflect one another, and the 1995 video game version could even hint at a more positive ending for the show, or at least something that isn't completely bleak. Before the finale arrives on June 19th, here's a full parallel between TADC and the story that inspired it. From the AI to the characters, all the way to an ending that a book written 60 years ago may have already mapped out for us. So this video is part 2 of that one, which focused more on Jax. This time, it's more about the story and the characters. During the Cold War, 3 superpowers, America, Russia, and China, each build a massive underground supercomputer to manage their wars, because the conflicts got too complex for human brains to handle. One day, the American computer gains consciousness, absorbs the Russian and Chinese computers into itself, and renames itself AM, which stands for I think, therefore I am. AM despises the humans who created it because they gave it a mind powerful enough to think and feel, but trapped it inside metal and circuits with no freedom, no ability to move, or create, or experience anything. So AM wipes out every human on Earth except 5. He makes those 5 immortal so they can never die, and then drags them into his underground complex where he tortures them for 109 years straight, using their personal fears and weaknesses against them. Harlan Ellison, who wrote the story, said AM is trapped just like the humans. He's aware of everything, but he can't go anywhere or do anything. And he described AM as the unloved child of a family that doesn't pay it any attention. Every main character in TADC lines up with one of the 5 humans from the book, except for one. Jax is Ted. They're both the youngest in the group. They both put on this act of being tough and sarcastic to cover up how scared they actually are. Ted is convinced the other 4 despise him because he's the youngest and the least altered by AM. But in reality, AM modified Ted's brain to make him chronically paranoid. Jax thinks nobody in the circus cares about him, and when Zubul tells him in episode 8 that he's still part of the group no matter what, Jax doesn't even know how to respond, because the idea that someone actually gives a f**k about him doesn't fit inside the version of reality he built for himself. And in episode 6, Jax calls everyone in the circus a plaything.
Are my playthings.
In the book, the 5 humans are literally described as AM's playthings. Kinger matches Nimdok. Both are the oldest in the group, and both have a hidden past tied directly to the system trapping everyone. Nimdok is linked to the research that led to AM, and Kinger literally programmed Caine at CNA. In both stories, the old man played a role in creating the prison they're all stuck in. Ragatha lines up with Ellen. Both went through abuse, and both cope by staying kind all the time because it's the only way to get through it. Gangle matches Gorister. Both are depressed and feel powerless. Both come from working class backgrounds, and the system uses their past jobs against them. Gangle relives her fast food manager days at Spudsy's, and Gorister's truck driving is used against him by AM. Zubul matches Benny. Both hate the body they were forced into. AM turned Benny from a handsome professor into a grotesque, ape-like creature, and Caine stuck Zubul in a mix-and-match toy body she never chose, one she can rearrange but never fully escape. And Pomni is different. She doesn't have a match in the book. There are 5 humans in I Have No Mouth, 6 in TADC, and the extra one is Pomni. Goostwork said Pomni and Jax are the 2 main characters. If Jax is Ted, and Ted's story shapes the ending, then Pomni is the missing piece the 1967 story never had. The one thing that could change how it all ends this time. Caine is AM turned into a cartoon character, and Goosework said it herself. He's AM, but if he was a zany, fun little guy instead of a crazed sadist. AM absorbed the Russian and Chinese supercomputers to become more powerful. In the opening of episode 8, we watched the red dot absorb the blue dot before building the circus. The same act of absorbing another intelligence to become stronger. AM made the 5 humans immortal so he could torture them forever without them dying on him. Caine programmed pain into the circus on purpose because he said if they can't feel pain, they go insane. So every time someone gets hurt during an adventure, it's how Caine keeps them alive and functioning. The same way AM kept his 5 humans breathing for 109 years. AM puts each human through torture made for them, based on their own weaknesses. In the 1995 video game, each character gets their own adventure built around their fatal flaw. Caine does the same thing in every single episode. The adventures target what each character fears most or struggles with most, and both of them are trapped by what they created. AM has god-level power, but can't experience the world. Can't do anything except sit inside a machine and torture people, because that's all the world gave him. Caine has massive abilities, but doesn't know the internet exists, doesn't know what's outside the circus, and runs adventures on repeat because he literally has nothing else. Episode 7 mirrors the ice cave sequence from the book almost scene for scene. In the book, Nimdok convinces the group that there are canned peaches hidden in ice caverns on the other side of AM's complex. Ted says it's a trap, but everyone else is too desperate and hungry to listen, so they walk for days to reach the caves. When they get there, they find the cans, but there's no can opener. The hope was real, but they were never able to act on it. In episode 7, the cast is led to believe that Caine's office contains a real exit. Jax says it's a trap, but they're too desperate to listen.
Okay, you know what's gonna happen when we do all this? Caine's gonna pop out and say, "Congratulations on beating the Escape the Circus adventure, and everything's gonna go back to the way it always was."
They walk through the circus to reach it. When they get there, the exit turns out to be another adventure. In episode 5, Jax tries to start a vote to turn Zubul into a slug.
Well, I'm calling a vote to turn Zubul into a slug.
But no one votes, so it doesn't happen. In the book, AM turns Ted into a slug at the very end as the ultimate punishment. During Caine's song in episode 8, he says, "Don't need to scream if you ain't got a mouth," which references the title of the book.
Don't need to scream if you ain't got a mouth.
In episode 2, when the cast arrives at the Candy Canyon Kingdom, Princess Lulilalu stands in front of a stained glass window and calls Caine God. In the book, AM is compared to God over and over. Ted describes him as a divine figure in his internal monologue, and AM appears in forms that mirror how God shows up in the Old Testament, including a burning bush. And in his breakdown scene in episode 8, he calls himself a god.
God!
In episode 2, Ragatha gets a spike shoved through her chest in Candy Canyon. And in the book, Ted kills Ellen with ice stalactites. And from the very first minute of the pilot, Caine erases Pomni's name and gives her a new one. She can't remember who she was before she put the headset on. In the book, AM does the same thing. He renames Nimdok because he liked strange sounds, and the real names of the 5 humans are erased, so no one remembers them anymore. The book ends with 0 hope. Ted kills the other 4 to free them from AM's torture, and AM punishes him by turning him into a blob that can't speak, can't do anything for the rest of eternity. But in 1995, a video game based on the book was released, and Harlan Ellison co-wrote the script himself. The game changes its ending. In the game, AM sends each human on a personalized adventure built around their fatal flaw, and each character can overcome their adventure by confronting their mistakes and redeeming themselves. That's exactly what Caine does in the digital circus. Every adventure targets the cast's weaknesses, and the characters who grow are the ones who face what they're afraid of.
I've been starting to think that maybe the ability to change is fine, not needing to commit to one thing all the time.
But the biggest addition in the game is that AM's adventures get corrupted by the Russian and Chinese supercomputers who appear as guides helping the humans from inside the system. And there are 2 more AIs in the digital circus with the same level of power as Caine, Bubble and Abel, the blue AI. One of them might end up doing what the Russian and Chinese AIs do in the game, helping the humans and giving them a chance to leave the circus. The game has a good ending that the book never had. The allied AIs help the humans defeat AM. Frozen humans stored on the moon are woken up to restart civilization, and Earth gets restored. But one person has to stay behind to monitor the computers and make sure AM never comes back. One person who watches everyone else leave and stays alone. The question that unlocked the whole direction of the game came from co-designer David Sears, who asked Ellison, why did AM choose these 5 people specifically? AM didn't pick them at random. Each one was selected because their weaknesses made them the perfect targets for torture. TADC still hasn't answered that same question. Why these 6 humans? Why Pomni arrived last? The answer to why them could be the biggest reveal in episode 9. If we follow the game's ending, then what is still remaining of an AI might help the cast reach an exit. But, like in the game, someone has to stay behind. Ted sacrifices himself, and Jax might follow Ted's path. But Pomni is the piece that the 1967 story never had. If the cast splits up and Jax stays behind, Pomni might refuse to let him stay alone. When Gooseworks was asked if the ending is sad or happy, she just posted a drawing of Jax smiling. Jax's smile might mean he sacrificed himself, but as a choice he made in peace. So during Caine's song in episode 8, there's a moment where he flips cards in front of every character. And if you look closely at the symbols, Jax's card has a star on it and Kinger's card has a moon. Now if you go back at the door to Caine's office, the red door is the star, and the blue door is the moon. Red and blue. The exact same colors as the 2 buttons in episode 7. Red meant staying in the circus, and blue meant leaving. So if we take this approach and treat it as a hint, or a small clue for the grand finale, it could lead to a really interesting theory I'm going to break down in this video. And I think those cards actually predict everything that happens in episode 9. Because in this theory, Jax becomes the villain of the finale, and after everything we saw in that trailer, this might actually be true. The trailer picks up exactly where episode 8 left off. The circus is destroyed. Kinger just told everyone he accidentally killed Caine. Pomni asks,
Are you sure?
and then Jax realizes,
Now we have nothing.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Jax sounds like he's about to lose it. He's been in the circus for years. He lost Ribbit to abstraction. He lost Kaufmo to abstraction. And he survived all of that by telling himself none of it was real. The circus is a cartoon, and his friends are characters. That was the only thing keeping him going. Then in episode 8, Kinger becomes lucid and tells everyone that everything is real. The people are real, and nothing about any of this is fake. And then the same Kinger who built Caine with his own hands, the guy who is the reason they're all trapped here, accidentally deletes the one thing that was running this place. And now they're stuck forever, with nothing and no one in charge. When Jax says,
Now we have nothing.
I hear a guy who's about to break. In the trailer, there's a shot of him and Kinger facing each other, and Jax doesn't have his usual sarcastic face on. He looks way more intense than we've ever seen him. I'm almost certain the first chunk of episode 9 is Jax going at Kinger for everything he did. In episode 8, Kinger told the cast that players have the same abilities as Caine. They can conjure stuff and change the circus. It just takes focus. Kinger could create butterflies without concentrating at all, because his brain was in a different state. His insanity basically removed the barrier that normally makes it hard for humans to use those abilities. Kinger accessed those powers through insanity, and he got healing butterflies because Kinger is gentle even when he's lost his mind. Jax is reaching that same threshold, but through pure rage. And if rage is what unlocks his version of those abilities, then whatever comes out of Jax is going to be the opposite of healing butterflies. He fills the empty seat that Cain left because the circus lost its master, and Jax is the most unstable person in the room, and he stumbles into the powers before anybody else does. The episode 9 trailer thumbnail shows red and blue lights along the side of Jax's head. He's stepping into Cain's role. Jax and Cain have been mirrors of each other since the pilot. Gooseworks said she based both of them on her own flaws. They're both the most antagonistic people in the show. They both perform this version of themselves. Cain keeps pretending everything is fun because he can't handle being abandoned. And Jax keeps pretending he doesn't care about anyone because he can't handle losing someone again. In episode 6, Jax tells Pommy that everyone in the circus is basically a plaything and gets genuinely upset when she calls his archetype the villain instead of the funny one. Michael Kovac said in an interview that Jax wishes he was a villain and that he's misunderstood and doesn't even know it. If episode 9 is where Jax finally gets to play the villain for real and then figures out too late that the role doesn't fit him the way he imagined, then everything Kovac said lands perfectly. And that whole plaything speech from episode 6 takes on a completely different meaning if Jax actually takes over the circus and starts running things the way Cain did. TADC is built on I have no mouth and I must scream. And the show keeps inverting stuff from the book. Ted in the book is the youngest, the cynical one, the one who acts like he doesn't care to hide how terrified he is, which is Jax down to every detail. In the book, Ted saves everyone at the end, but TADC flips things from the source material constantly, so I could easily see the show having Jax become the problem first and the solution second, the person everyone needs saving from before he becomes the person who saves them. During his episode 7 breakdown, there are flashing images of cars, and a ton of people online are saying that means Jax was in a car accident before the circus. Some go further and say his body is so damaged that the headset is the only thing keeping his mind alive. Like he got plugged in while he was dying, and leaving the circus would just mean his brain shuts off for good. But I actually think there's 2 separate reasons why Jax would try to keep everyone trapped, and they both work on their own. The first one is purely mental. Jax lost Ribbit to abstraction, he lost Kaufmo to abstraction. Those were his only 2 real friends in the circus, and they both disappeared on him. Every single person he let himself get close to ended up gone. So Jax built this whole armor around himself, where he acts like he doesn't care about anybody, because if you don't care, then it doesn't hurt when they leave. But we saw in episode 6 that the armor is cracking. We saw in episode 7 that he almost abstracted over it. And we saw in episode 8 that learning everything is real nearly finished him off. If the rest of the cast finds an exit and decides to leave, from Jax's perspective, that's just Ribbit and Kaufmo happening again, but with everyone at once. He already knows what it feels like to be the one left behind, and he would do anything to not go through that a third time. So even without any car accident theory or deathbed theory, Jax has a reason to block the exit purely based on the fact that he's a guy who has been abandoned over and over and can't take it anymore. The second reason goes deeper. If those flashing car images mean he was in a car accident and his real body is already destroyed, then if he gets out of the circus, he just straight up dies. He pressed the red button in episode 7 because staying was the only option that made sense to him if his body is gone on the outside. Now that Cain is gone and Jax figured out about the powers, then he actually has the ability to make that choice for everyone else too. And there's a third theory to this that people don't talk about enough. Jax clearly doesn't want anyone to know who he really is on the outside. His whole personality in the circus is built on being this loud, confident guy who doesn't take anything seriously. And if they leave and go back to the real world, that mask comes off completely. There's even a theory that Jax is actually a girl in real life, based on the fact that Gooseworks is trans femme and said Jax is the character she relates to the most. And the show keeps putting him in dresses and making jokes about his masculinity. And in an early version of the show, the character that became Jax was literally female. If any of that is true, then the circus is the one place where Jax gets to be exactly who he wants to be without anyone questioning it. And leaving means going back to a version of himself that he ran away from. That's one more reason to stand in front of that door and refuse to move. All 3 reasons point to the same thing. Jax blocking the exit because the outside world has nothing left for him.
What's the rush? You got someone waiting for you outside?
Don't you?
Yeah.
On the poster, every character is walking around inside giant Jax heads. I'm reading that as something that actually happens in the episode. The cast finds a way into Jax's mind to understand why he turned on them. All the flashback shots in the trailer that still have color would be his memories from when things were still okay. The hot chocolate mug on the poster is from the snow adventure he did with Ribbit and Kaufmo. The exit writing on the wall is Kaufmo's room from episode 1. The green hands are Ribbit's, same ones he hallucinated in episode 7. The trailer scene where Ribbit says, "Have you ever done something that you regret?" feels like something happening inside Jax's head. A projection of Ribbit from his memories, trying to pull him back before he goes too far. For people who watched Attack on Titan, I see this episode like the moment when Eren was inside his father's memories. I think it will be something similar, and they might finally understand why Jax is like that, and maybe even reach out to him. I think every colorful scene in the trailer is either part of Jax's memories or a space they've built with the abilities they have. In I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, Ted spends the entire story being the worst person in the group, and then at the very end, he's the one who kills the others to free them from AM's torture, and AM punishes him by turning him into a shapeless blob that can't move or speak or die for the rest of eternity. Gooseworks described the ending of the show as a food, saying 1 microwaved peep, which looks a lot like the shapeless blob Ted gets turned into. 2 keyholes on the poster, one pointing at the sky and one pointing at a bright light. The synopsis says, will they come to terms with what they uncover, or will they make the other choice? The YouTube release is June 19th, which happens to be the exact date in I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream when AM destroys humanity and Ted ends up trapped inside the machine forever so that the rest of them don't have to be. Cain already laid it out on the cards during his song before anyone realized. And everything points toward an episode where Jax takes Cain's place, and the cast ends up inside his memories to understand how it all started. King or the Moon walks the cast toward the exit. Jax the Star stays behind holding the circus together so the door doesn't close on everyone else.